Joining us now, Republican Representative Jeff Denham of California and Democratic Representative Stephanie Murphy of Florida. Welcome to you both. We want to get both of your reactions to Steve Ratner's charts this morning. Steve, you're looking at Friday's jobs report that fell short of expectations and showed that the president is lagging in two of his economic goals, restoring manufacturing and curbing the trade deficit. So, Steve, take it away. What do you got?
So we're at the two-year mark, more or less, in the Trump presidency, and it's a good time to take these numbers and look back on how he's done, as you say, against two big promises: one, to restore manufacturing, and two, to address our growing trade deficit. So if you start with manufacturing, what you can see is that, in fact, since Trump arrived in office, manufacturing jobs have grown, but manufacturing share as a percentage of total jobs has remained essentially flat. So the notion that manufacturing is going to come back as some major factor, larger factor in our economy is wrong. And our share of manufacturing jobs remains below where it was in the Obama years, and it obviously remains way below where it was going back over the last 10 or 20 years. So there's really no enormous sign of improvement there. If you turn to his tariffs and his desire to restore iron and steel to their place in America, you can see a sort of similar picture that jobs in the aluminum and steel production industry has essentially been flat. It's a little hard to see on the small line, but you can see it just flattened out since Trump put his tariffs in place on aluminum and steel. And again, you can see that there are fewer jobs in aluminum and steel now than there were during the sort of meat of the Obama years, if you'll accept that expression. And you can see that there's certainly way less than there were going back to the early 2000s. So there's no real sign of any significant improvement in aluminum steel. And then the last piece of the puzzle of Trump's major goals, of course, was to address the trade deficit. And we had new numbers also late last week that basically said that the trade deficit has hit a 10-year high. And this is $55 billion for a single month, so you can do the math and you get to close to $60 billion all told. Roughly half of this deterioration is China. In anticipation of the tariffs, China has cut their purchases of our soybeans, which is one of our major exports to China, by half. And we have actually stepped up our imports from China in anticipation of those tariffs. So the trade deficit, rather than getting better, is in fact deteriorating over the 2 years of the Trump presidency.
All right, so Jeff Denham, this is not a very good review of the president's accomplishments in office as it pertains to the economy. Is Steve missing something? Are there some positive developments prompted by the Trump administration that is going to create jobs and make America great again? Because I'm not seeing it.
Well, look at the economy. Best we've seen in decades, and certainly our unemployment rate is the best it's been since 50 years. So there are some really good things that are happening in our economy. The tax cuts that we passed last year are still having a lasting effect. When people do their taxes this week, not only have they seen it in their paychecks month to month, but they're going to see it when they file their taxes. And so I think there's a lot of great things going in the economy, but trade is certainly something that's going to have to improve.
The tax cuts, Jeff Denham, who are the tax cuts helping?
The middle class. If you talk to people in my district, a very blue-collar district, it's helped a lot of people. I've heard it from people.
So give me the numbers on those tax cuts. What are they going to see? What's the difference? How much money are they going to save, make, get back with President Trump's tax cuts, which, as we know, helped the rich and his friends that he told in Mar-a-Lago after he passed them? He went down and just said, "I made you all a lot of money." Is the president wrong about that?
I think it certainly helped the business community. I think it will help us as we create more jobs. We've seen that in the economy. But no, I mean, that's the misconception of this whole thing. If you talk to people in California, the biggest challenge was those top 1% that actually had deductions taken away. The middle class, about $2,100 per family of four. That's what people are going to see. They're planning their taxes.
$2,100 per family of four.
Yes.
I'm not sure that's the right number.
In a district like mine, it is.
Maybe in your district, but the average across the country is more like $800.
Right. I'm just saying, this is a little awkward because it just feels a little bit like putting lipstick on a pig.
Well,
honestly,
there are certainly
these tax cuts help the rich.
Well, it certainly has helped to spur our business. We've seen our stock market, 401ks, retirement accounts, all moving in the right direction. But we can do a better job on trade. I mean, a community like mine, California in particular, the trade challenges we've got to continue to address, which is why I want to see the USMCA taken up, improving upon NAFTA, that will actually help us to have more trade here in North America. We've got to fix things with China. That affects my district in a big way.
So, Stephanie Murphy, Congresswoman, I want to ask you a little bit about deficits in the following Congress. We've seen that this president has driven up the deficit extraordinarily, and he's reportedly been say it doesn't matter because he won't be here when the deficits really kick in. And the question I have for you as a blue dog is making the case. How do you make the case to other Democrats that they should pay the price for the president's mess on fiscal policy and make sacrifices to repair the damage the last president did or the current president did?
Well, the debt is an incredibly important issue, and it's incredibly irresponsible of the president to say that it doesn't matter because he won't be here when come time to pay the bills. Unfortunately, all of our constituents will be on the hook for the debt that has been racked up. And what I found with the president's economic plan is that it's incoherent. And not only have we blown a hole in the debt, we're not actually receiving the goals that he set out to do. So this huge tax cut that was supposed to bring companies home, they're finding that they're not going to come home to operate behind tariff walls. And so you're seeing companies manufacturing shutter, not actually grow here in the United States. While, in addition, the tariffs are essentially a tax on consumption. And so people in my district, whether it's small businesses or consumers, are finding that these economic policies are having a significantly negative impact on their lives as they face what is essentially a regressive tax on consumer products.
Casey.
Hey, Congressman Denham, it's Casey Hunt. I just want to pick back up on what you were just talking about with the tax cut. If the tax cut was good for your district and isn't why you lost your election, why did you lose?
Well, the earlier segment you talked about ballot harvesting. Ballot harvesting is legal now in California as of this last election. When you can find 250,000 ballots after Election Day, you can move a lot of different seats. My seat, we won early votes, we won absentee votes, we won Election Day votes. This station called David Valadez.
Are you implying that the results of your election are invalid?
No,
and
I'm saying it's legal in California, and if California is going to win Republican seats back, Republicans had better figure out how to ballot harvest as they have in other states.
So your loss had nothing to do with President Trump, in your view. It had to do with this quote-unquote ballot harvesting.
If you look at polling numbers, the president was polling almost even right before my election. We were up by 8 points.
Ms. Murphy, let me ask you a question about going back to the House in January. Democrats, is the first item going to be impeachment? And how do you feel about that?
I haven't heard that the first item is actually going to be about cleaning up Congress and passing reforms to campaign finance to restore the American people's faith in this institution.
But impeachment.
All right.
Oh, go ahead. I'll try to make it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just, Congressman Jeff Denham, thank you very much. And Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy, thank you both for being on this morning. And still ahead, federal prosecutors implicate the president in campaign finance violations, and that's just from the Southern District. We'll talk to a former aide to Bob Mueller about what could be in a pipeline of the special counsel probe. And the president gets rejected by his top choice to replace John Kelly as his chief of staff. Does anybody really want the job? Morning Joe is coming right back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.